Hello everyone, welcome to the Concept Hacks. So today we are going to discuss the right ventricle. In the previous lecture we have already discussed the different characteristics of right atrium. So in this video we are going to discuss about the right ventricle. Okay, so basic characteristics of right ventricle, we'll just write few points. This is the 4 to 5 millimeter in thickness. So this is one of the basic characteristics of our right ventricle. Okay, so in this right ventricle we have some kind of series of ridges. We'll draw this one first. So let's draw the basic anatomy of our human heart. For example, this is our heart. This is the rough diagram of our heart. Okay, so this is the valve. This is the another valve, tricuspid and bicuspid valves. We'll definitely going to discuss about detail about this. So this is our typical diagram of our heart. So we know what is this. This is the superior vena cava. This is the inferior vena cava. Okay, this is coronary sinus. We know that the coronary sinus which receives the venous blood from the coronary veins. Right. So this is the right atrium. This is left atrium. So today we are first going to discuss about the right ventricle. So in this right ventricle, we will just zoom in a little bit here. This portion, these two segment will zoom here. So in this segment, let's draw it again, the right ventricle specifically. So suppose this is the right ventricle. Right, this is the right ventricle, and in that right ventricle, the inner linings of our right ventricle have some kind of ridges like structure. We have this is nothing but the endocardium. This is the endocardium. We know this is the myocardium. This is myocardium, this is myocardium, and this is the endocardium. This is thin layer of endocardium. The ridges are basically formed from the myocardium, and the endocardiums are just lining over that myocardium. Right. So this is an endocardium is just lining over that ridges of myocardium. So this is the ridges like structure inside linings of our heart, inside linings. So basically heart, when blood comes from the right atrium to right ventricle through the tricuspid valve, during the time blood directly come into those contact with those ridges. So now another thing we need to write here, that these are the ridges. These are the ridges like structure. So another thing we need to draw here, for example, this is the right atrium. So this is, for example, this is the right atrium. This is right atrium. In the right atrium we have that valve. This is the tricuspid valve, which is attached directly to the right ventricle. This is right atrium. This is right ventricle. So now you are able to correlate this junction. We are currently drawing these two segments. These two segments These two segments we are currently drawing here. So this is the tricuspid valve. So there is the three cups like structure. This cup number 1, cup number 2 and cup number 3. This drawing is not so good. So this is the 3 cup like structure. This is basically how does it look like. It's look like this. 3 cups are attached. Okay, so this is cups 1, this is cups 2, this is cups 3. So this is the cups like structure, that's why it is called the tricuspid. So this is the 2D diagram. This is the topmost upper portion diagram here, top view, and this is the side view. So we are not able to draw that particular picture so perfectly. So I am trying my best to give you the exact mechanism action of these ridges, and the upcoming few structure will be there. We'll discuss it very soon. So let's discuss it again in Zoom, another version here. So for example, let's draw it again here. For example, this is the right atrium. Let's suppose this is the right atrium and this is the right ventricle, and this is the ridge-like structure. Ridges, rough like structure. Those ridges are absent in case of right atrium. So this is the right atrium and this is the right ventricle. I am not directly writing here is the right ventricle RV because I need to draw something over here. So please concentrate. In that portion, we know this is the ridge-like structure and this is the inner linings of our heart. So next point is those are called ridges. You know, these are called ridges. So these are called ridges-like structure. And what is the name of those ridges? Basic name of those ridges, they are called trabeculae carni. Trabeculae carni. CARNEAE. So these are called trabeculae carni. So at the top of those trabeculae carni, we have another muscle. Let's use some different color. So at the head of those muscle, at the top of those trabeculae carni, we have another muscle. This green dot I am representing. Those green dots, those are called papillary muscle. Papillary muscle. So these are called papillary muscle, which is basically present at the top of those ridges, and the ridges names are, the name of those ridges are trabeculae carni. And at the top of those ridges, at the top of our trabeculae carni, we have another green muscles. Not green, I am representing with green color. That's why I am saying it the green muscle. So the name of those muscle, these are called papillary muscle. Right. So what happened? Those papillary muscle, they are basically attached. Those papillary muscle, they are basically attached with those valves. Those papillary muscle, they are basically attached with those valves. Now valves are directly attached with those papillary muscles. So what is the name of that papillary muscle? That valves are directly attached with the papillary muscle with some kind of tendons or some kind of filaments. those filaments or those tendon like structure, they are called with another name, which is called the chordae tendinae. What is the name of that particular tendon like structure? They are called chordae tendinae. Remember, so we have three different names in that inside linings of our right atrium. What is the name of those structures? First, the inner linings, we have ridges like structure. Inner linings, we have ridges like structure. Those ridges are called trabeculae carneae. At the top of our trabeculae carneae, we have some green colors, muscles. I am representing with green color, that's why I am calling it as green color. Those green muscles are called papillary muscles, and those papillary muscles are connected with our tricuspid valve. Because why it is called tricuspid? Because this is the right atrium and this is supposed to be the right ventricle. This is definitely the right ventricle. As it is a right atrium or as it is a right ventricle, so in between that interatrioventricular valve of our right side, it is called the tricuspid valve. Why it is called tricuspid? Because we have three cups. Okay, the three cups we have, that's why it is called the tricuspid valve. So that tricuspid valve is present in between our right atrium and right ventricle. And that tricuspid valve, with the help of chordae tendinae, attached to the papillary muscle, and the papillary muscle is present where? It is present exactly at the top of our chordae tendinae. So these ridges like structures are called chordae tendinae. So this is the basic anatomy. Now let's come to what is the physiology of those structure. What is the need of those structure? Why it is attached like that? Because we know when right atrium contract, during that contraction, what happened? All blood comes to the right ventricle. Definitely, when right atrium contract, that blood directly come to our right ventricle. This is there is no problem over here. Problem arises when right ventricle contracts. When right ventricle contracts, that blood should not go, that particular blood should not go again to the right atrium. That blood supposed to go through the pulmonary arteries, and the pulmonary arteries again divided to right and left pulmonary arteries and go to both the lungs. This should be the mechanism. So that's why these tendons are attached. Those chordae tendinae, papillary muscle, and trabeculae carneae. This is the main function they are performing. What is their function? When right atrium contracts, that blood should not go again back to the right atrium. So that's why we have that valve-like structure. Those valves, which is the cups. So these cups are called tricuspid valve. So when the tricuspid valve block, what happens? If right atrium contract forcefully, then that valve may get over-flattened into that upper direction. It may get turned because of the force of that blood which is pushed by right atrium. So when right atrium contract, that force is higher, and because of that high pressure, blood directly go to our pulmonary artery, and that valve become closed. But if you just imagine, if those tendons are not attached, then result of that forceful contraction, that valve may get turned into the backward direction, and when that valve get turned in the backward direction, that valve may turn in the backward direction and it may get flattened towards the internal linings of our right atrium. It become like this. That valve may become like this structure. It may become like this. So when the valve, if that particular valve it become like this structure, then what will happen? That whole blood it directly go into that our right atrium. When it will go to the right atrium, that again the deoxygenated blood which is coming from right atrium, it will again go into that right atrium, and our circulation got disturbed because the deoxygenated blood which is coming from right atrium to right ventricle, during that contraction, that particular blood should go through that pulmonary artery to the both the lungs. It should not again go to the right atrium. That's why to fix their position and to fix or ensure their block position during their contraction, during that right ventricle contraction or ventricle contraction, those tendons are attached. These tendons, like structure or chordae tendineae, are attached with the papillary muscle, and they have this much of length that after their contraction, when the valve close, the tendons get the maximum tension. Tendons have got the maximum tension, and that tendon will not allowed to move that particular tricuspid valve into the backward direction towards the right atrium. So it will become so much tension it will get, it will receive the so much tension that when the valve close, the tension of our trabeculae carinae will be maximum, and it will not allow the valve to again turn back towards the right atrium. So this is the basic concept of this is the whole mechanism of papillary muscle, chordae tendineae and trabeculae carinae. Now let's discuss few other important points, and those are suppose this is the okay, this is our heart. So we are discussing the right ventricle. So right ventricle is separated from the left ventricle through a interventricular septum. So this is called the interventricular septum. It's called interventricular septum. So this is the interventricular septum. Interventricular because in between the two ventricles. That's why different ventricles, two are there. That's why it is called the interventricular septum. Septum or partition. Septum means. Okay. So this is another point. And that blood circulation is like here. One large arteries are present. The name of that artery is called that pulmonary trunk, right? This is called the pulmonary trunk, and that pulmonary trunk will get divided into two different arteries, which is called, they are called the left and right. It's called the left, and this is the right. Left and right pulmonary artery. This is the right pulmonary artery. So this is the right pulmonary artery, and this is the left pulmonary artery, and from here the right ventricle blood will go towards the both the lungs. Okay, so this is the blood circulation of our right ventricle. So this is the basic anatomy and physiology of our right ventricle. Now let's discuss our next point, which is the left atrium. So the left atrium. So left atrium is almost the same thickness just like the right atrium, but the thing is, in the left atrium, we know at the right atrium, the posterior anterior walls, we have few differences. In the posterior wall in the right atrium, it was completely smooth and anterior wall was rough, but in case of both posterior and anterior walls are smooth in case of left atrium. Now let's draw the diagram again. So this is the right atrium, this is the left atrium, right ventricle, this is the left ventricle. So we are currently discussing about this one. This is the left atrium. So left atrium receive blood from 4 different veins. Why I am drawing like this? Because this is these two pulmonary vein will carry blood from right lung, and these two pulmonary veins will carry the oxygenated blood from left lung, and their openings are here. These are their openings inside our left atrium. So we have another interatrioventricular valves are there. So that valve just represent with, we'll draw the diagram like here. So this is the valve and this is our, so this is the left ventricle and this is the left atrium. So remember, this is the left atrium, this is the left ventricle. So in between our both left atrium and left ventricle we have another valve which is called the bicuspid valve, because now that valve is 2 cups are there. This 1, this is 2. Usually previously in between that our right and left atrium and ventricle we had 3 cuspid valve. Now we have 2 cuspid valve. That's why it is called the bicuspid or mitral valve. Bicuspid or mitral valve. So this is the importance of our bicuspid or mitral valve, which is present this way. This is the bicuspid or mitral valve. Now when left atrium contract, that blood directly come into our left ventricle. So blood directly come into our left ventricle, and now we're going to discuss about the detailed anatomy and physiology of our left ventricle, which is the last part of our part 2 segment of heart chambers. Now let's discuss the left ventricle. First, draw the diagram. This is the right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle. So prime focus is this one. This is the left ventricle. So in that left ventricle also we have those ridges like structure just like the right ventricle. So I am not going to discuss the concept again. Here will be that valves will be there. And through that valve blood will definitely come here again, and when it contract then tendons will be there with the help. Papillary muscles will be there here. These are the papillary muscles. So for the better understanding, you just rewind the video and go to the first part of the video where we'll get the exact knowledge what I am drawing currently. So this is the papillary muscles, that black dots, and those the red groups are called the ridges, which is called trabeculae carni. This is papillary muscle, and tendons are called chordae tendineae. So when it contracts, the tendon get some tension and it will fix the valve at the correct position so that blood cannot move back into that our left atrium from the left ventricle. So this is the basic concept what I am drawing here. This is the basic concept. I have already discussed the same concept in the first part of this video. Okay, so please go through that part. Now our main concern is different. Our main part, I'm going to draw the other particular thing again. We have already discussed what is the valve present here. This is the mitral valve or bicuspid valve. Okay, now I'm going to discuss the blood circulation from where it begins and how it works. So blood circulation basically begins so this is the valve, this is left atrium, this is left ventricle. So we are going to discuss how this blood will basically go to the different part of our body. So here we have one large artery of our body. Their openings is here, and from that opening, why I am drawing this particular arteries here, because in this side we have another part. This is the complete heart. So this is the right side. So I am not going to draw that part. This is the right side. This is the right side. So this is completely different. Where prime focus is this one. We have already discussed these two parts in the first part of this video. So now we are going to discuss about this part, how the blood will go from left ventricle to the different parts of the body. So this is the artery. This is the artery. This is the ascending. This is the ascending aorta. This part is called ascending aorta. Now we have another part which is called the arch of aorta. So from this part, this is called the arch of aorta. This is the arch of aorta, and then it will come back, and then it will come back and it will go into the lower part of our body. This is the descending aorta. So this part is called the descending aorta. So in an aorta we have three different parts: number 1, number 2, and number 3. So number 1 part, which is called, this is called the ascending aorta, this is called the arch of aorta, and this is called the descending aorta. So we have three different parts. So next thing we need to discuss that from where the coronary arteries basically begins. The coronary arteries, it basically begins from the branches of ascending aorta. So from here our coronary, from here exactly our coronary arteries will start. So this is the coronary artery. From this side our coronary arteries basically they will branched out from the ascending aorta. So this blue part I'm drawing here. This is the blue part. The blue part with color mark I am drawing. This is the ascending aorta. This is the black part. This is the black part I'm drawing. This is the arch of aorta, and this red part is called the descending aorta. So this is called a descending aorta, red color. Then we have another part which is called the black color. I am marking over here. This is the black part. This is called the arch of aorta, and the blue part, this is called the ascending aorta. Right. So these are the three different parts of our aorta. In detail, when go for the blood circulation, then we'll detail discuss the different segment again. So this is the rough diagram. You should know where from the coronary artery begins. So these are the coronary. This is the coronary artery. So from coronary artery, they will begin from this part, and this is the from the coronary artery begins from the ascending aorta, from transverse aorta, or sorry, this is the arch of aorta or transverse aorta. So transverse aorta, this is the main segment of our thoracic aorta. So this is also called the thoracic aorta. So black part is also called, this is also called thoracic. This is also called the thoracic aorta, and this red part is called abdominal aorta. Abdominal aorta, and this is the thoracic aorta. This is thoracic aorta. This is the black one. Thoracic. So thoracic, this is the black one. This is the thoracic aorta. Abdominal aorta, this is the red one, and this blue one is the ascending aorta, where coronary arteries, they are branched out. This is the three different things. Now one more thing we need to discuss, and with the help of this aorta, with the three different aorta, coronary artery supply blood to the heart muscle. Thoracic aorta, this supply with the thoracic cavities and upper body parts, and aorta, this is the descending aorta, it will go and distribute the blood at the lower part of our body. So one more thing we need to discuss, which is called the ductus arteriosus. But ductus arteriosus is the quite different mechanism it will follow. That's why I will discuss that part in the next session. So from today, this is the overall different chambers of heart. With these two parts, I have completed these different chambers. Hope you like this video. Thank you.